this is Marine. We're part of the live stream crew that are bringing you live action from today in central London, where Extinction Rebellion are welcoming everybody into the movement, because the climate crisis and the nature crisis doesn't care what your political orientation is. It doesn't care what your race, your religion, your sex is. It's going to affect all of us. And so we need all of us to join together in this moment to step forward. Today's action, we are here in a just unprecedented moment of converging crises. The cost of living crisis and the climate crisis are two parts of the same story. And it's an old story where the majority of us have to pay the price for crises not of our making, whilst a tiny minority prosper from our struggles. Well, we're here in central London to call upon this government to say, we can't afford this anymore. Like, we just can't afford this. We need strong, bold leadership, and this government is incapable of rising to the challenge. But what if there could be a way to change this out of date, out of touch, corrupt governmental political system? Well, Extinction Rebellion's third demand for citizens' assemblies would do just that. Marine, the expert on this matter, can you tell us more about how Extinction Rebellion's third demand for citizens' assemblies could empower people and embolden the necessary decisions to happen?
Yeah, thanks Laura. Hi everybody, great to be back on the XR live stream. It's very exciting to be here today. I'm going to make sure not to hold the mic too high. Extinction Rebellion's third demand is for a citizens' assembly on climate and ecological justice. And it's a really interesting time actually to be talking about it, because not everyone may be aware, but the WWF, the RSPB and the National Trust have actually recently commissioned a citizens' assembly called the People's Assembly for Nature. And they are going to be talking to everyday people about what they want to see for the future of nature in the UK. So it's really interesting, because obviously 4 years ago when XR started and we came out, we said we want a citizens' assembly. Everybody was sort of like, what? What's that? Why? We've got parliament, we've got this, we've got that. And we said, yeah, but this is a different kind of democracy. It's not new. It's not something that XR has invented. It's something that has existed for centuries in all sorts of different shapes and sizes in Central America, South America, the ancient Greeks. It's in Asia. There's lots of examples of deliberative democracy. But we said, actually, we think we need a UK-wide citizens' assembly on climate and ecological justice now to come up with a robust and fair plan. And I think that fairness is really key when you're talking about citizens' assemblies, because the people on a citizens' assembly are everyday people like us, like the people here, but also the people walking past us. It's not just climate activists, not just people who are already interested in this issue, but also people who don't care about it, but who are going to have to deal with the changes that are to come. So it sort of empowers people to have a voice, a much more direct voice than we currently have, where we vote for someone every 4 or 5 years, and then that's sort of the end of our power, so to say. So this is really a group of people who will be tasked to come up with solutions that they agree on this particular issue. And so far the government have ignored this demand. Rebellion! So it's been ignored, but it's interesting to see that more and more different groups. So we've had the Scottish Climate Assembly, we've had Climate Assembly UK commissioned by 6 parliamentary committees, we've had one in France, now we've got this alliance, People's Assembly for Nature. So it is starting to become more of a sort of mainstream political thing. And And really what government needs to realize is that this is something that not only do people want, it's also something that we need, because it's clear that the system as it is currently is unable to deal with the crisis. They've had over 3 decades, maybe nearly 4 decades to deal with it, and they just haven't. So it's time to upgrade democracy. We're working with we're working with a political system that is over 100 years old. People don't even keep their phone for a year, more than a year. They upgrade, you upgrade everything. We're upgrading medicine, we're upgrading healthcare, we're upgrading the way we live, our TVs, our phones, doing all this stuff. Yet we're not upgrading democracy. We're keeping this ancient system that clearly doesn't work and isn't fair for everyone. So yeah, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but basically the point is that is what we want. So it's not XR saying these are the solutions we want. XR is saying the people need to decide together with information and time, so they have guidance and time to talk things through and come up with solutions that don't just work for the few elite, but that are as fair as possible for everyone. So yeah, that's it's almost the opposite really of what's happening in our government at the moment, which is really prioritizing the rich. It's prioritizing growth and destruction, and yeah, that's just not what people want. And it's also just not going to get us any solutions that are going to be long-term, fair, anything like that. So anyway, that's sort of my rant over. Meanwhile, it's amazing to be here. There's so many people behind us, as you can see, and we're just slowly walking down Whitehall on our way to Downing Street.
And I think we should go and find out what the people who have gathered here today do want. If they did have the power to create change, to enable change, what change would they make? So we're going to have a little look at the sort of people that have come here today. There really is such a big range of people from all different professions. I've seen groups of doctors and nurses, there's scientists. These trusted professionals give me the confidence that I am involved in the right movement. When I see them willing to get arrested and willing imprisonment to try to defend life on Earth, it does give you the confidence to put yourself on the front lines, to try and defend everything that we love. So let's have a look. Here we are. Here's some scientists. Right on, click. You. Dr. Charlie Gardner, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here.
Do you want to tell us, from a scientist perspective, what is the latest science? What's come out this week in the news? What do we need to know? And what brings you as a scientist out on the streets with Scientist Rebellion?
Good question, Laura. There's been a lot, actually. So I'm a conservation scientist. I'm not a climate scientist, although, I work on both. And for me, the big news this week, there's a report that was published yesterday that a lot of you might have seen. It was published by WWF, and it was a report looking at the state of wildlife populations around the world. So there's these, obviously we don't have all the data on every single species of animal, but we have data on over 5,000 species of animal going back to 1970. So we know how big their populations were in 1970, we know how big they are now, and when we look at the average across all these 5,000 species, their populations have declined by 69% in 50 years. Over 2/3 of all these wild animals have disappeared. And of course, that's just an average. So when you look at the animals that live in fresh water in lakes and rivers, they've declined by 83% in 50 years. The animals they were looking at from South Latin America, you won't even believe this, they've declined by 94%. 94% in 50 years. So this is just shocking, because obviously, animals are really, really important. Obviously, we love them and they make us happy just to know they exist. But they're really important, because without animals, you don't have functioning ecosystems, right? And we need functioning ecosystems to survive the climate crisis. We can't avoid the worst of climate change without having forests and wetlands and coral reefs and things, because they absorb lots of carbon. And we also, we can't survive the impact of climate change either, because nature's really good at defending us from extreme weather events and things. You know, when you see, when we see all these big floods in Germany and Pakistan and China and the UK, of course those floods are caused by record rainfall, but they're also caused by the fact that we've destroyed all the forests and the wetlands that would have absorbed all that water. So, you know, when you see disasters like that, that's a combination, not just of climate change, but also of the destruction of nature. I think lots of us watched horrified a couple of weeks ago as we saw all these videos of Hurricane Ian just like blazing a trail through the Caribbean and destroying Florida. Well, the places that got really badly destroyed were the places that had already cut all their coastal mangrove forests. You know, these forests would have protected people from the worst of the storm. So, sorry, I'm going...
What are the solutions, Charlie? I think now like 80% of the British population are now really concerned about the climate crisis and the nature crisis. And I think now they're really desperate to hear what are the solutions. So if you had the power to change things, what would you change?
The thing is, I don't have the power to change things. Who does have the power is the government. And the government are doing everything that they shouldn't be doing. So as a scientist, I've spent my life trying to communicate what needs to be done to the government. And the government's own scientific advisors are telling them that we have to stop destroying nature and we have to stop burning fossil fuels. And yet, government policies are taking us in exactly the wrong direction. They're promoting more fossil fuels and they're trying to rip up all the rules that protect nature. And this terrifies me because, you know, conservationists, we spent the last 40 years persuading the government to create these rules to protect nature, and they did, and now they want to rip them all up. So I feel my power, the power that I have and the power that you lot watching at home have, is to put pressure on the government by saying no, by saying we will not allow you to just fucking destroy everything. We are going to go out in the streets and we are going to make it stop. So that's why I'm here today.
Such power. It is so powerful having real scientists here amongst us, real doctors, real nurses, but also the whole cross-section of society. You know, there's all professions represented here. The media try to portray us as just one, you know, very small section of society, but it's really not. It's very broad, very diverse.
And it's a very beautiful thing to be part of, it really is. I know many of you at home can't be here for all sorts of really good reasons, but if you can, do come down one day, you'll love it.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. So yes, if you can come down, we're heading to Downing Street now. The Extinction Rebellion visited there earlier this morning and tried to deliver something to our government, but they weren't prepared to accept it. So we said that we would be back later, and that's why we're on our way there.
We are here today at Downing Street to hand deliver this beautiful framed Employee of the Month award to Liz Truss for her outstanding ongoing work in supporting her former employer Shell in this tough time. Shell's reported record profits of $11.5 billion, doubling its earnings in a single year amid surging energy prices. While we can't afford to heat our homes, Shell is raking in unimaginable profits, 40% of which is hidden in tax havens. On top of all of that profit, our government gave Shell a £90 million tax rebate last year. We want to congratulate the Prime Minister, who started her career as a graduate trainee at Shell in the 90s, for issuing new oil and gas licences and bringing back fracking. Well done, Liz. She was trained by the oil and gas industry, and now they have their very own fossil fuel interests Prime Minister, the wife of a former BP executive who even donated £100,000 to her election campaign. It's clear who Liz Truss is working for. That's why we are here today to deliver this wonderful Employee of the Month award to Liz Truss, the third greatest female Prime Minister this country has ever had. Liz, we can't afford this anymore.
Thank you. Let's see if we can present it. Is it possible we could leave this here with you? No?
It'll look beautiful. On the staircase, maybe?
We've had it framed in a special nice gold frame especially for her. Is it possible we could leave it? No, okay, no problem. We'll probably try and pop back a bit later when she's in and see if she can take it then. All right, thank you.
So Extinction Rebellion gathered here heading to Downing Street to tell our government that we can't afford this anymore, that we want change. Welcome, you've come down to join us. Is this your first time at an Extinction Rebellion event, or have you been before?
Certainly not. No, I was here at the Declaration of Rebellion outside Parliament in 2018. So I come along to be part of whatever I can, and I find it personally a great help to me, but gives hope, you know, that there's a whole community of us, and we are making a point here, and there's a chance some of it will get heard.
Well, that's right. Non-violent direct action has been proven through history to be one of the most successful methods of forcing societal change. And we're following in the footsteps of greats that have had a tremendous influence in creating our, actually quite world-renowned democracy. But it's come to the stage where that needs upgrading, it needs updating. This government are out of touch with what the people, the majority of this country, need and want.
We really need to protect it, and just by coming out on the streets together, we're defending the freedom of speech, the freedom to protest, and the freedom to have our own opinions and act on them. So it's really important that we occupy the streets.
And it's good fun to be here. You know, it's heavy, the topics that we're dealing with, but when you're actually in London, and here we are outside Downing Street. Yay!
Right, let's see what's going on here. Let's see who's out here. So we've got our signs. No more oil. We can't afford this anymore. And of course, we can't afford this anymore is a great slogan, because it's not just about energy bills, cost of living. It's also, we can't afford to keep emitting fossil fuels, carbon dioxide. We can't afford to dig for more oil, more gas. It's sort of, you know, we can't afford any of this anymore in a sort of literal sense. And we can't afford to have this kind of government anymore, who are just blatantly ignoring their duty, which is of course their duty to look after the citizens who voted for them, although obviously no one voted for the current iteration of the government, but that is their role. They're supposed to look after us and protect us, and they're not doing it. So that's why we're out here right now, and now we have a new guest. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
So you've been involved with organising today. What are we doing here? Why are we here?
Yeah, I'm definitely not involved in organising today.
No. Okay, great.
I've just come along as a punter to enjoy the day the same as everyone else. I think it's a really important message that we need to bring to Downing Street. You know, the people are in crisis all over this country. So,
yeah. So what is it exactly that the message is here today? Because I can see here we are in crisis, the hashtag anti-growth coalition, we can't afford this anymore. What is it about?
Yeah, we simply can't afford this anymore. From a cost of living, perspective, but also from an environmental perspective. You know, we can't keep digging fossil fuels out of the ground. It's just not sustainable. We've got a prime minister who's, in the pockets of all these big oil and gas companies. She used to work for Shell.
Yeah.
Last year the government gave a £90 million bailout to Shell, and this year they've, announced record profits. That's not a just system. That money could be used elsewhere in our communities that are really, really struggling at the moment. So it's important that the politicians know that. They're so disconnected from the reality of, normal people on the street.
Yeah. If you could have a quick chat with Liz now. She came to the gate. She's like, all right. What would you say to her?
I think I would ask her to think about her life choices very hard. I think that's about as polite as I can put it.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here. Thanks. Bye. Right, we're going to go and have a chat with Imogen now from Student Rebellion. Imogen, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm so happy there's so many people here.
How's it feeling to be part of this, standing here outside Downing Street? What's happening to you right now?
Well, it's feeling powerful for sure. It's good to see so many different people here as well. Like, I was just marching with all the NHS doctors and nurses and health practitioners as well, which is incredible. And yeah, I just really hope we make enough noise that they can hear us over in number 10 Downing Street, because we got to make noise. We're so tired of this shit. We gotta be heard.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you, because you're a student. You're involved with something called Student Rebellion. What's your involvement, or what is that basically?
Yeah, so Student Rebellion is specifically about, well, getting students involved. It's made by students for students. You know, we're at the edge of our edge of our childhood, edge of our adolescence. We're about to go into all these future careers. We're being told about how exciting the future is, and yet it's actively, we're being fucked over every single day. And so we need students to come together. Student movements in the past have been really, really powerful, and yet there isn't a mass student movement for the climate. So we need one more than we have ever done before.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I feel like there's a disconnect between the management of universities and the actual students. We can see it now as we speak. There's people at SOAS talking about reparations, decolonization of, well, conservation, but decolonization of our mindsets and everything. Really amazing stuff being done there. There's XR, BCAN is there, Be the Change. But SOAS are threatening to block that from happening, and it's just talks, it's just peaceful stuff. Do you find that there is quite a lot of disconnect there from what you're finding in the leadership of universities or other educational institutions and what the students want?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, universities used to be this place for radical thinking, for new ideas, and now it feels like they're run almost more like businesses. In fact, 2 days ago in Leeds, we had Shell come to our careers fair.
Oh, God.
Which we, of course, occupied their stall, chased them out, and used that time to talk about why they shouldn't be there. But it's such an obvious example. It's just such a big disconnect between what students are actually wanting, what we're asking for, why we're at uni, and how we're being treated.
So how did that go? How did you get rid of Shell in your... So was it like a freshers fair or a careers fair or something where they were?
Yeah, it was a careers fair. So what we did was 2 days before we sent this big open letter saying all the many reasons why Shell should not be there. You know, we've just seen 33 million people lose their homes in Pakistan, and Shell is actively involved in that, and yet they're being invited in. They're known human rights abusers. There's so many reasons. So we sent this letter, not really expecting it to do anything, and we came prepared for disruption. But what actually happened was, because we've caused disruption before, and because they know I was Student Rebellion, they decided that the university told Shell about this, and Shell pulled out entirely. So what we did, we got there and we're like, oh, amazing, well, we're not leaving anyway, it doesn't matter if they're not here, this is a bigger issue. So we took over their stall, used it to launch our To Hell With Shell campaign, and just use the time for a really positive conversation and actually talking to people what the future might be like, but what it could be like if we all came together and worked through this.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, you managed to disrupt without disrupting almost. Yeah, brilliant. That's very efficient, non-violent direct action there. What are you seeing now? Are there students here today? Are there people from Student Rebellion here today? What is the mix? Because there's a real mix of people, all ages, all kinds of backgrounds. Are students coming to these kinds of things, do you think? I mean, you're here, obviously. So what do you think? Are there fellow students here?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent all summer actually connecting with loads of different uni students, and it's actually so nice that I can finally see people in person today. So there's lots of us here. There's also XR Youth. There's people, from all ages, all backgrounds, all careers. It's really, really nice to see.
And what do you think for students now? Is this on your mind while you're doing your degree? Because what's your degree, and are you thinking about what your future is going to look like? Are you even able to concentrate on what you're studying?
Simple answer, no. I study dance, contemporary dance, and I've actually stopped being able to concentrate in classes. I'm in my third year of my degree, and actually when I finish my degree, I'm probably not going to dance and just do full-time activism. I've been dancing and training since the age of 8, and I actually can't ever imagine stopping it, but I can't imagine doing anything else because this is too important. Now, I'm not telling people to leave your degrees or quit your degrees, even though I know so many people dropping out of uni to do this, but I mean, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I want to look to my future and be really hopeful, but right now I'm just fighting for a livable planet. I mean, I'm 20 and I am terrified for the future, which I don't think that should be happening.
Imogen, thank you so much. And I mean, is there anything else you want to say to the people watching at home at this point, other than come join us on the streets?
Well, I was literally about to say that. I'm sorry. But yeah, please come. Like you see, like it's powerful and it's important, but it's also joyous, and we can also connect with so many people. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. Just come and connect with people, because also I think what you're saying, that fear that you can't concentrate on your work, you can't concentrate on your studies, it's crippling and it's horrible, and it's a very lonely thing to be going through as well. Come and be with us. You're not alone. Everybody here is feeling the exact same thing, and it does. I mean, it's a strange thing to all be, sad and grieving together, but in a way it is joyous. So yeah, thank you so much and enjoy the day.
Thank you so much.
So that was Imogen. So yeah, do follow them. It's Students Rebellion. Student Rebellion. Yeah, okay, there we go. Want to get that right. So that's quite a new thing. So we've had universities and stuff organised before as well, but this is kind of a new iteration of that group as well. So I'm not sure what's happening now. Oh.
We cannot afford this anymore. Our national debt is increasing as the government has borrowed billions to pay energy companies tied to the fossil fuel economy to maintain our leaky housing stock in its current conditions. They stop price rises now to see them quadruple in the future. We cannot afford this anymore. £45 billion of tax cuts, including a freeze on corporation tax. We cannot afford this anymore. This isn't a recession, it's a robbery, and we know where we need to go to call them out for it. So possibly most disgusting of all, in May 2022, the Independent Food Network surveyed 100 of its organisations representing 194 independent food banks, data, etc., etc. We have over 2,500 food banks in the UK currently. It's hard to connect with statistics when they're so mind-boggling, right? But there are people across this country struggling, and it's in the last year that 95% of the people they spoke to responded saying it's because of the cost of living crisis that they are now more actively going to food banks. To put this in a disgusting perspective that we will understand because we are conditioned by the society we live in, we have 1,493 McDonald's in the UK. We now have over 2,500 food banks in the UK. Think about how much you just are aware of McDonald's and how much they influence our society and culture. They're advertising everywhere. We know who they are. We're coming up for 2-to-1 of food banks to McDonald's. This is disgusting. We cannot afford this anymore. So that's why we're here today. And that's why we're going to be burning our bills. And this is a representation of all the things that we are letting go of, all the things that we know are disgusting in our society and we cannot continue with. And it's falling apart at the seams. It's obvious. This is a sad reality for us as people who live in this country, but the political structures are falling apart at their seams. They're not prepared for the future. Change is coming. What it looks like is unknown right now, and we all need to keep thinking about it and keep disturbing and agitating for it to be better than it looks right now. because the options on the table are awful. And so Kwasi Kwarteng has been fired today. It's a matter of weeks. It's falling apart at the seams, folks. And so at 2 o'clock, we're going to do a mic check and we're going to read out a speech, right? And we want everybody to engage in that and be as loud as possible so they hear us on that live coverage and they hear the people of this country are not content with the way that things are going right now. We're also going to be doing the bill burning. So has everybody got a sheet of paper? Flap them around in the air. Your white papers in Parliament. We disagree with this. And we're going to burn them all in the barrels that we've got here today. We're also going to invite everybody who is burning their sheets to come up and give us a one-sentence testimonial about why it is that they're doing that today, why you're here. Because it isn't about me speaking on the microphone, it's about all of us being in this moment and all participating in it and all showing our outrage and disgust at the way that things are going right now. So when you burn your bills, please come up and we'll get people to do a testimonial about why it is that they're burning their bills. If you've got paper sheets, maybe start sort of sidling your way over to the barrels so you're ready to start burning them soon. Also, just a couple of shout-outs as well. Like, it's amazing to see so many doctors and nurses and health professionals here today. These are the people that are seeing the worst side of this country, right? People in their most awful bedridden states. And they are coming out in larger and larger numbers of Extinction Rebellion because they know that what we're saying is right. We're calling the alarm, and they're the ones who have to deal with what happens with the consequences of our indecision now. And seeing more and more of them here, it's amazing. So thank you for all your work. Thank you for all the windows that you've smashed. Thank you for all the people that you've worked with and supported and helped. Also, just thank you to all the friends that are here today. There's so many lovely people, so many people coming up to me. There's so many familiar faces, so many people done so many courageous things in the last 4 years. So again, just give yourselves a massive round of applause and thank you for all of the work that you've been doing. I know it's hard, I know it's tiring, but you're still here, so thank you again, everybody. And please keep sidling over to the barrels. We've got one here, there's another one over there. I think there's a third one a bit further over. So if you've got a piece of paper and you're prepared to burn your bills, then please hang out around by the barrels.
Right, so that's a bit of an overview of what to expect in the next few hours while we're here just outside Downing Street. There's lots of activity actually on the other side of the gate. Obviously the press are all there. Sadly we can't get in there, but you know. Obviously all waiting to hear Liz Truss's press release on the sacking of Kwasi Kwarteng. The question is, of course, within this political system that we have, is the firing of one person, using one person as a scapegoat, is that actually going to change anything? We're obviously dealing with a systematic problem here. And Laura's just telling us that something is happening. Just going to get everybody to stand up here. Things are starting to happen here. Can anyone see? Oh, so we can see some barrels here. And as we were being told just now, people have brought their bills, their energy bills with them. And they're going to set them on fire in protest against the rising cost of energy, when really we should have been 100% green by now, easily. And it's being blamed on all sorts of things, but really it's the lack of foresight of consecutive governments not transitioning to sustainable energy in a fair and just way.
So stewards, make sure the press get their pictures.
So we've got Liz Truss, Employee of the Month, for when she used to work for Shell. It's obviously not great having a former Shell employee as our current Prime Minister in this day and age. You couldn't make it up if you tried, but there we are. So Just to give you an idea, there's lots of thought go into these kinds of action, obviously burning things and stuff like that. It's not just ad hoc, we randomly decide. Lots of organization and thought goes into thinking about safety and security for the people here. So much planning and organizing goes into these events. So yeah, that's also to say, if you're looking here and you think, oh, this is all a bit hectic for me, not sure I want to do this kind of thing. For every rebel you see out here on the streets, there's probably 10 more behind the scenes who you won't even see, organizing, planning, scheduling, liaising. There's so much to do. So if you think, well, maybe not on the streets, but yeah, I'm quite good at organizing, I'm quite good at speaking with people, I'm quite good at arranging things, then, there is a space for you here. You can be involved.
We're going to start with our burning of bills now. So if you want to step forward.
So the burning of the bills is going to start now. Burning of electricity bills, burning of gas bills.
So burn these bills. We cannot afford that we are existing in this world anymore. And this is a physical representation of that. We cannot afford this anymore. Everybody step forward, burn your bills, and then come up to the mic and please tell us why it is that you're doing this, what you're getting rid of, what the sentiment is behind you burning those bills. Extinction! Rebellion! Extinction! Rebellion! Sean Binder, Sarah Mardini, Nasos Karitsos, facing up to 25 years in Greece for humanitarian aid. As I say, we're going to keep reading these solidarity statements throughout the day to remember that this is a global struggle. What we're doing is local, but this is a global struggle, and we're connected with everybody who is striving for a better world.
Yeah, so as people are burning their bills, this is really, these young children, we know that the climate and ecological emergency is here, it's happening now, but you can't help but look at young children, or young students like Imogen just now and think, what future have they got? I know it's not just about the future, it's right here, right now as well. But if we don't do anything, it's just going to get worse.
Crazy world. There is a roughly
Here's George talking on the mic now.
Global economy, and over half the people on this planet struggle for the very basics of existence. And more than that, we are destroying the very conditions of our own survival. This is madness beyond our ability to comprehend with our hearts and our minds, and I think that's why we're going along with it to such a huge extent. But the science is utterly clear. We need a transformation of this system now to have any chance of a viable future. And as I said, half the people on this planet, 4 billion people, live under a meaningful poverty line. And for a matter of a few tens of billions of dollars a year, absolute peanuts to the people up the street in the city of London, we could get rid of extreme hunger. We can provide clean water, the basics of a decent life to every single person on this planet. Is it too much to ask as a father of an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old that they grow up in a world that is functional, that they can survive in, and that they can feel good about? We have technology on this planet that we couldn't conceive of even 50 years ago that can deal with all the problems that we have if that technology is democratized and if it is in the service of compassion rather than this insane growth. Because let's be realistic, growth is a cipher. Growth is code for ever-increasing concentration of wealth at the top. There is a reason they want to talk about growth, because it's a substitute for them for redistribution of wealth. And as we all know, wealth has not trickled down, even though if it were trickling down to starving people, that is horrific in itself. But the opposite is happening, it's gushing up. And the more Welsh gushes up to the top, the less political power the majority of people have, unless and until they mobilise in their masses on the street, and not just in this country but across the world. And many people are doing that. The challenge for us at this crucial moment in history, where the government's own scientists are telling them that we need an absolute transformation of the system, the challenge is to draw those struggles together and make sure that we see each other. If it weren't for the complete absence of a free press in this country, this kind of activity would not need to happen in the first place. If our media did its job of telling people what they really needed to know about a world that we need to give to our children that is viable for them, we would not have to do this protest. Because the government's own scientists on climate, they said we need rapid, far-reaching, unprecedented changes to every aspect of society. And they said that 5 years ago when we first started. Are they doing that in any country? Barely. Costa Rica maybe. You know, it's a pretty good example. But the truly evil thing about this country is that it claims that it is a global climate leader. And it went to Glasgow last year and said to the world, all you need to do on climate is say the magic words, net zero 2050. And as the renowned global climate scientist Kevin Anderson has pointed out, net zero is in fact not zero. It is simply an excuse to carry on the insanely psychopathic, and it is psychopathic, I mean, maybe it's so